It seems to be getting worse for AEW as we near the end of 2024 with no real change in sight for AEW Dynamite. As perfectly said by Eric Bischoff on the Ariel Helwani podcast yesterday, where he claimed that there was no hope for change in AEW and that they don't have anybody working there that understands what a real story is. We'll go over what he said and why he is so upfront and honest and truthful about everything, and why the AEW fanbase seemingly doesn't understand that there are many problems within AEW right now, and this is what is causing their ultimate demise. We'll go over how WWE potentially could be bringing in a major TNA name, and we'll go over the latest on Big E contract news following a tremendous segment on Monday Night Raw, where the New Day, both Xavier and Kofi Kingston, turned their back on Big E, who made his return last night during the 10-year celebration on Raw. All this and so much more right here on Off the Script. And we will start with Josh Alexander, former TNA World Heavyweight Champion, eyeing free agency. WWE and AEW obviously will be in the mix to bring in his services to either company. Now, Josh Alexander is already making plans for a big future in 2025. He is a free agent, and obviously he wants to wrestle anybody and everybody, no matter where they are, possibly facing some of WWE's top superstars and some of the biggest names in AEW. On the Insight podcast with Chris Van Vliet, Alexander shared that he will be a free agent on February 15th, adding that he's equal parts nervous, equal parts excited for the upcoming change. When asked what's next, the former TNA World Champion teased a future in WWE. He says, "I'm watching the product, looking at NXT being like, man, me and Ethan Page could tag once again. I'd really love to have a match with Pete Dunne or Gunther." The list goes on and on. Man, you don't even have to say anything at all, man. You sold me at Gunther. That's it. Him and WWE will go on with what he said about AEW, but him and WWE would be an unbelievable pickup. Alexander is yet to compete in WWE, even though WWE and TNA have their own little partnership going on, and by his own admission, didn't grow up dreaming of headlining WrestleMania, which gives hope to AEW. Rather than being a lack of determination, the walking weapon explained that he would love to take his wrestling career to new heights, even bigger than it already has. It's not just WWE that Alexander's keeping his eye on. With Chris Van Vliet, he explained that his desire to face fellow Canadians could result in him signing with Tony Khan. "I would really love to get a chance to wrestle Edge, Adam Copeland. He's in AEW. You know what I mean? And there's Japan. Shingo is the one guy on my bucket list." Alexander has been a top star in TNA for years, which bodes well for the Canadian landing in WWE, AEW, or promotion in Japan. So obviously we will keep an eye on where he goes, but I do think ultimately he ends up in WWE. He could very well end up in AEW because he just basically told you he didn't really have a determination or a dream to headline WrestleMania. Sometimes, people come along and they look at WrestleMania and that's not really what they want, and that's okay. Not everybody wants to go to WWE. Not everybody wants to headline WrestleMania. They got their own plans. They want to do what they feel is best for them, and he might love the idea of AEW, the lighter schedule. They got their own WrestleMania-like event every year with All In. So we don't really know what he wants to do. We don't know what his mentality is, what his family's going to need from him. I think he would fit like a glove in NXT. I really do. I think him and Ethan Page, them getting back together would be tremendous. They were tremendous together as a tag team with the North, and WWE could absolutely use a top-tier tag team like that in the ranks for their tag team division. On the flip side, he wants to go singles. He can start off in NXT. He can make a dent in that brand. He could get called up to the main roster. And I mean, my God, man, the dream matches that could be. And if you ever watch Josh Alexander wrestle, you know what the man is capable of. Pete Dunne, Gunther, Finn Balor, AJ Styles, the list goes on and on. with him on the main roster if he gets to that point and if he wants that. We don't really know, like I said, what he wants. On the flip side, he goes to AEW. I mean, there are plenty of names for him to work with. Ospreay, Takeshita, Ricochet. I mean, again, the list is just so vast. It's fucking scary, to be quite honest with you. And then the New Japan door opens, and if that's a dream of his and a desire of his to go wrestle in New Japan, which wasn't available to him now, I mean, he could certainly go and do that. So the world is his oyster. I just feel like him going to WWE, I think he would fit very well there. And NXT at the top of that card, man, holy shit. I would be throwing whatever I can at him because they need major names at the top of the men's division for Trick Williams and the NXT Championship. I don't know. I don't know what their mentality is right now, thinking of where they are. They are weak, very weak. So getting someone like Josh Alexander coming on in, man. Mike Bailey was another one. Seemingly they're not bringing him in. He's going to AEW as reported by Fightful. I would have made huge plays for both of those guys to be put at the top of the card on the NXT brand, but who knows, man? We'll keep a close eye on it. I do think that he's going to end up, prediction-wise, end up in WWE. I would not be surprised if he ends up in AEW. We will see what the future holds for Josh Alexander as he heads towards free agency on February 25th. Big E. If you guys watched the tremendous segment from Monday Night Raw, the New Day 10-year celebration, and they swerved us all. We were all thinking, who's going to turn on who? Is it going to be Kofi turning on Big E or on Xavier? Is it going to be Xavier turning on Kofi? Neither of those things happened, and they ended up turning on Big E after he showed up after many, many, many months away due to a neck injury, and they made the neck injury the story of this entire segment. And they blamed all of their shortcomings and all of their internal problems on Big E not being there and not being the supports that they needed. And threw his neck injury in his face, saying, Steve Austin came back, Kurt Angle came back, and now you want to come back and manage us. Where were you all these months when we needed you? A neck injury that didn't even require you to get surgery. Unbelievable segment that left a lot of people in the feels on Monday night. But what does this mean for Big E? He threw around the phrase last night, until I am medically cleared. So you know Big E is working towards a comeback, and you know that he's going to do everything to come back. So what does that mean for Big E and the WWE? There's a big contract update on Big E. In 2019, the New Day and WWE announced that the New Day had signed 5-year contracts, all three of them, with Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston, and Big E signing until the end of 2024. Now, Fightful is reporting that they have not learned about the status of Woods or Kofi and any possible injury time or re-signings or extensions, but they did learn a little bit more about Big E as speculation runs wild ahead of this New Day storyline now taking shape. Those that Fightful spoke to within the WWE said that they don't believe that injury time was added to Big E's deal as of this summer. He's been sidelined since early 2022 with a broken neck. However, we've not learned if he'd re-signed or not on a new deal since then. However, it would make sense for WWE to not add injury time to his deal, as the contract they signed with him was under the expectation that he'd be an in-ring talent. He's been appearing on digital content, making appearances and panels on pre-shows, which all counts towards his deal. There's always a chance things have changed since then, but as of the summer, that was the official word on Big E. They're all coming back. I'm not worried about them going anywhere. This storyline is the most interesting that the New Day have been in over 5 years. I would go out there and say, hot take possibly, this is the most interesting they've been in all 10 years, to be quite honest with you. And everybody loves Big E. The New Day split that we thought was coming on Monday did not. They split from Big E. They threw him under the bus and they separated themselves from Big E, which is now the story of Big E, because Xavier told him last night, you're not going to get cleared. There's no way you're going to get cleared, and you're a fraud. Basically, in so many words, he called Big E a fraud for not showing up. Meanwhile, the neck injury didn't require surgery. They threw him under the bus, and now the story is about Big E proving them wrong. And Big E potentially could be in the Royal Rumble. I do think Big E is on his way to being medically cleared. For all we know, Big E is already medically cleared, and they're just waiting for the perfect time to bring him back to television in an in-ring capacity. And I do think that whatever they're doing at WrestleMania, they will all be involved with each other. We may see a New Day dark cloud for the next several months until WrestleMania, where they all get in the ring together, and then we get a New Day reunion of sorts. Them coming back together with Big E back in the fold, back on television, back in good health, and we get the New Day that we had in the beginning of their run, now going into 2025. I think that is the plan. But the whole idea now is with Big E saying, until I'm medically cleared, and then Xavier throwing it in his face, you're not going to get medically cleared. You see where the story is going. The story now is Big E proving them wrong. And the naysayers on social media, which I saw last night and I'm seeing today, oh, it didn't make any sense. Why are they on the rocks and on the splits? And they were coming into last night about to split and end the New Day, and then all of a sudden they see Big E, and then they all of a sudden decide to stay together and push him out. It's because they did not expect Big E to be there. They did not anticipate Big E being there. But in that same promo, in that same segment, they said that they spoke to each other. So you don't think that they spoke about Big E and how Big E's absence made them feel, and how they feel Big E's absence has caused this split and separation? We're not at full strength, and Big E could have been back. You don't think they were discussing this personally? Why do you need every single detail? You got the gist of it. You got the gist of it. That's the way I took it. I don't know why everybody's having a problem understanding the segment. When they saw Big E, all of those emotions that they probably spoke about in private, they all just came out. And then when Big E says, I'm going to be back every week, and I'm going to be your manager, then they realized, well, what? No, you're not. Where the fuck were you over the last 2 years? You could have been back any fucking time. Now you want to come back? Now you want to come back at our weakest. The storyline is fantastic. Absolutely great. I can't wait to see where it plays out. And the story now is Big E proving both Xavier and Kofi Kingston wrong. And I do believe, my prediction, he will be in the Royal Rumble. Eric Bischoff. My God, man, if there's somebody that loves to create controversy, it is Mr. Eric Bischoff, Eazy-E. He says there is no hope for AEW. And if you look at the ratings from last week's Thanksgiving Eve, not only was the attendance down, in Chicago, the ratings were down, and they are losing viewers week by week by week. Last week's attendance was, I believe, in the 4,000 range. The year before that, they did close to 6,000 on Thanksgiving Eve. Oh, but everybody was celebrating Thanksgiving as if Thanksgiving didn't happen year over year. It didn't happen last year, the year before that, the year before that. The night before Thanksgiving ratings, 536,000 viewers with a demo that came in at a 0.15. The year before that, they did 845,000 viewers and a demo that was in the 0.3 range. Where did everybody go? Were more people celebrating Thanksgiving this year than they were last year? I don't know, man. The excuses are coming in a mile a minute. And the AEW sickos can't grasp that there is no hope for AEW. And whatever you're hanging on by, it's slowly disappearing. Eric Bischoff was on the Ariel Helwani Show to discuss a wide range of topics, including the state of AEW and the product. Now, Ariel Helwani loves to push the buttons. He does. Now, Eric Bischoff is appearing on NXT tonight for whatever reason. I don't know. So, obviously, you see the narrative that is being created. We're not stupid. Eric Bischoff is showing up on NXT, NXT's direct competition to AEW, the Wednesday Night Wars, which is not Wednesday Night Wars anymore, but AEW is largely compared to NXT because, I mean, they're so far down in the fucking dumps that they can't even compete with the NXT developmental brand. Eric Bischoff's appearing on NXT, so clearly he's been one of the more vocal personalities in the IWC about AEW. So the fact that he's appearing on a WWE show now, Ariel Helwani had to throw it in there and just get his take on AEW just to rile up the sickos. I like it. It gets people talking, and it's a great strategy. But Eric Bischoff said this on the current state of AEW. They're horrible. I've given up. You know what? I used to get really frustrated with them because I actually hate seeing people screw up good opportunities. I know what that feels like, and I don't want that to happen again. I know what that feels like and know how hard good opportunities come by. So when you see somebody shooting themselves in the foot day after day, week after week, in every possible way, it's frustrating for me, and I would vent that frustration like we all do. We don't want AEW to fail. We want AEW to be successful. And right now, I mean, all these sickos have is their TV deal, which, I mean, clearly it's not making the television product better. It's actually making the television product worse, because one of my fears was they're going to get very complacent. They're going to get very lazy. They got their TV deal. They got their money coming in, and they feel like they succeeded, and they don't need to go out there and prove themselves anymore. I knew this was going to happen. Vince did it year over year. Every fucking contract season that came up with a Raw or SmackDown needing a renewal, you knew the same thing was going to happen. They're going to get their money, and the shows are not going to get better, and they're going to get their money and get lazy because they think who they are. And that's exactly what's happening with Tony Khan and AEW. Eric Bischoff continues and says, now it's just like, yeah, whatever. It is what it is. There is no hope for them. Nothing's going to turn their company around. There's no light bulb going to go off on anybody's head and realize, oh, this is actually getting people to watch TV. They have no idea about what they're doing, and they're too stubborn to learn. He's not done. On there being no story that can turn it around. There is no story that can turn it around. Moxley's story's not going to turn it around. The Devil story didn't turn it around. The Elite fucking pile driving Tony Khan. Meltzer driving Tony Khan didn't turn it around. They don't know what they're doing. And then they aired the footage from All In with CM Punk and Jack Perry. And if you don't think that absolutely drove people away in the worst possible way, you're an absolutely delusional fuck. I said it then, I'm going to say it now. It had nothing to do with storyline. The only reason why they aired that footage is because Tony Khan is petty. Just like how Tony Khan is petty by keeping certain people off of television because of their relationship with CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. If you utter the words of CM Punk and Cody Rhodes by name or whatever they have taught you or whatever you feel about them, you are benched in AEW. Fact. If you don't believe it, then start believing it. It's not a conspiracy theory. Tony is petty. Cody Rhodes and CM Punk were the two biggest names that they had employed in that company and were the driving force for their success. Everybody else followed their lead. And now they're not there anymore. Now you see what they're doing on WWE television. CM Punk is still one of the most sought-after names in the entire industry, and Cody Rhodes is the biggest name next to Roman Reigns in the industry as the WWE champion. They let two of the biggest names in the business go to the competition. Don't you think the fan base understand, or the real fans, most of the fans understand that when Tony Khan let something like that happen, and he sided with the Bucks and he sided with the Elite, that this was not a serious business? How are you going to let CM Punk out of his deal for the Young Bucks and Jack Perry? You know, we all got on CM Punk's case years ago, and everything that came out after the fact, more and more and more proved that Punk was right literally about everything. Everything that he said on Ariel Helwani's podcast last year during WrestleMania season, everything that he said leading up to his WWE return, everything he continues to say now, kind of low-key, low-brow, under the radar, the little jabs he takes, everything is correct. Everything that he says has been proven to be factual. Tony Khan's not running a business. Tony Khan's running a vanity project. Tony Khan is running a make-believe toy store with real-life action figures so he could feel important. Eric Bischoff and people like Eric Bischoff and Jim Cornette and me, we understand that this is the same downward spiral that we were seeing with WWE in 2019. And if it doesn't change, AEW will not last the next 4 years under their new cozy contract from Warner Brothers Discovery. It's a fucking disaster. This is the most important part of his interview yesterday with Ariel Helwani. There is no story that can turn it around. Not there, because there's nobody that knows how to tell a story. Fact. Tony Khan doesn't know how to tell a story. Will Washington, the failed podcaster that he is, doesn't know how to tell a story. This is what happens when you hire internet marks to run your company. This is what happens when you hire amateur fucking lowbrow nobodies to run your company and deal with big league talent. Where's the story? Every single week, I call out, where is the story? Where is the engagement? Where is the cliffhanger to lead us to next week's show? Where is the feeling of watching one show and saying, as that show ends, leading into next week, man, I can't wait to watch that. I can't wait to watch what's happening on next week's Dynamite. Where's the emotional investment from viewer to character? Where's the feeling in what these men and women are doing? Clearly, everybody feels the same way because they can't fill a fucking gymnasium anymore. 2,000, 2,500 is their max for Dynamite. This show was doing 6, 7, 8,000 fucking people every week. Where did everybody go? The ratings were in the 850s to 900s every week, viewership-wise. Demos were in the high 30s to mid-30s. Where did everybody go? Why is nobody causing a shitstorm over the decline of AEW? Where did everybody go? How the fuck did we get here? There is no story. There is nothing. There's nothing to watch. Just random matches thrown together. Oh, the Continental Classic, no matter how great it is, it's not going to get people to watch your fucking show. There's no story. It's just matches. They did the same thing last year. They tried it. And then every story that you saw coming out of the Continental Classic, they did not deliver on one single fucking story. Not one. The Jon Moxley story is a fucking fail. The MJF story with Adam Cole's a fail. Bobby Lashley and Swerve Strickland is a fail. What else is there? What else is there? There is nothing. Nobody there knows how to actually tell a story. I use this analogy sometimes because it's easy to understand. Boy meets girl, boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back. That's a story. It's not very compelling. Nobody cares. But if Shakespeare gets a hold of it, it's kind of like a version of Romeo and Juliet. So yeah, you'll hear the fans, oh, there's a great story. There's stories. Dave Meltzer says the problem with AEW is that there are so many stories that people can't keep up with them. I kid you not. He said that. And people take him seriously. The stories, if there's any, or they are so bad that the only lowest form of wrestling intellect on the planet finds enjoyment in that. Fact. There is no stories. There's none. Or I should say, there are stories, but none of them are good. They are exactly how he described. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back. Oh my God, man. What a compelling fucking story, man. What a great way to tell a story. And people take him seriously. The stories, if there are any, are so bad that only the lowest form of wrestling intellect on the planet finds enjoyment in that. Now you will find some people, and I think this is cool, if you just like the physical presentation of guys flying all over the place and doing all kinds of athletically amazing shit, and you don't care about story, you don't care about characters, that's your jam. AEW is your jam. If that's what you like, then more power to you. It's just not viable for the masses, as Tony calls them. It's for the sickos. First, why would you want to call your fans sickos? Because the majority of them prefer not to be called that. Just a hint. Tony's vision for the company, I guess, is to provide content for that percentage of the audience that only cares about high risk, high altitude, fast-paced action and not about story and not about characters. Tony Khan is killing your company. Don't know how many times I have to tell you. He's not going to realize it. He's not going to change it because he's greedy and he's power hungry. And this is all he's wanted to do with his fucking life. And now he has it. And he doesn't know how to operate the growing massive talent that he continues to bring in and the declining ratings that are showing for it. He doesn't know what to do. Moving to a smaller venue is not going to help. They're not. Moving from venue to venue and filling fucking 2,000-seat venues to make the shows feel good is not the end-all, be-all answer you need. You need to remove yourself. Tony is killing the company, and he needs to hire accomplished writers to get the product where it needs to be, captivating an audience with interesting characters and story that takes you from week to week to week in a compelling manner to where you want to watch. If I missed Dynamite on Wednesday, I missed nothing as far as story. Zero. Oh, but you missed a banger match. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a shit. People worldwide were claiming Raw last night was one of the best Raws of the year. Why? We got an 8-minute triple threat match with the ladies for the IC title. We got another match that went 4 minutes. Dominic and Gunther went 8 minutes. Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins basically did an exhibition that wasn't really a match. It was like more of an angle than anything. I mean, they had probably less than 30 minutes of pro wrestling on Monday Night Raw last night. But you know what carried the show and why everybody was so uber positive about how great the show was? Story! The interweaving of multiple storylines through multiple characters that we find interesting. The New Day, emotionally invested in the story that they've been telling, and now with Big E back, it just takes it to another level. AEW's got 0 characters that even fill that on their television show. 0. Now, but as long as they deliver banger matches and we see fucking Ricochet flip and dive to a bunch of fucking sickos that want to sit on their hands and not react to anything because they've seen it 1,000 fucking times before. No, sure, continue to do that. The shows suck. They are boring. Boring. The one thing you don't want to be is boring. Excitement. We need it. Where did it go? The feeling, where did it go? The story, where did it go? Once upon a time, they did it. You know when they did it? When Punk and Cody were there. As soon as Cody left and Punk was gone, Tony said, this is my show now. And Tony is showing you how clueless he really is. Eric Bischoff said nothing wrong. Nothing. As far as I'm concerned, what Eric Bischoff said on Ariel Helwani Show last night, or yesterday, was probably the best quotes, the best statement he's ever had, ever, on AEW. You want to know what's wrong with AEW? There you go. I don't know how anybody can listen to this man and say, Eric Bischoff's a grifter. Eric Bischoff is wrong. Eric Bischoff is 100% factual in everything he said to Ariel Helwani. Fix it. But we know it's not going to be fixed. There is no hope for AEW because nobody has any hope in Tony Khan. Thank you guys very much for all your support. I'm going to get out of here. I got some stuff to do. But tonight, you'll see me again for episode 75 of Tuesday Night Titans with the Solid Monster. We are going to go over Survivor Series, Monday Night Raw, and everything that happened this week in the world of pro wrestling. So make sure you guys tune in tonight, 8:30 p.m. live, right here on this channel, episode 75 of Tuesday Night Titans. Hit that thumbs up. Let me know what you guys think down below of what Eric Bischoff said in regards to AEW. Where do you think Josh Alexander is going to end up? Is it going to be WWE? Or AEW? Leave me a comment down below. Every comment down below helps us more and more in the algorithm, so please mix it up in the comment section and get the video in the YouTube algorithm. It's a great way to help the channel out, and I really appreciate you guys. And make sure you guys follow me on social media at JD from NY206, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Cameo. Guys, tonight live, 8:30 with the Solid Monster, Tuesday Night Titans, right here on the channel. I'll see you guys later.